Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the eastern border. Conflicts continue amidst Russian leadership, and the war, well, is still going on without any signs of ending. Except, of course, the Russian side is still throwing troops into meat grinders. Wagner Group is just spending insane amounts of their conscripts, including the prisoners, of which, they can't hire anymore, to find out where the machine gun nests are and then assault those. It's a bloody mess over there. Same happens in Vuhledar, where Russian soldiers are uselessly spent and just wasted all over the place, and people are just not very happy, especially since that the Russian general who started this whole, meat grinder is still quite much in power. At the same time, guys from Irkutsk appealed to Putin for help. These guys have done so twice already, and this is the third one. This is also the most interesting one. See, mobilized soldiers from Russia's Irkutsk region just recorded the video appeal to Vladimir Putin, asking him to deal with the lawless and criminal orders from command. These poor guys claim that they were transferred to the 1st Slavic Brigade of this Donetsk People's Republic, where command created assault units in day one from their ranks, and then sent them to storm the Avdiivka fortified area without any support, artillery, communications, sappers, or reconnaissance. The command told us directly that we are expendable, and that the only chance we have of returning home is getting injured, the soldiers say. They also report that the commanders from the self-proclaimed DNR fired machine guns and infantry fighting vehicles at draftees who refused to join the assault units. The draftees add that their battalion is almost completely destroyed, and that they suffer heavy losses every day because command does not know the real situation at the front. They say that their unit has been replenished with mobilized soldiers 6 times since November. The governor of Irkutsk, Igor Kobzyev, posted on Telegram that he has asked the military prosecutor's office to clarify the situation. He promised that the mobilized soldiers would be transferred to a different location in the near future. He said, I'm keeping the situation under control. The problem is, he's been saying this twice already, last time as well, because these are the 3rd time, like I said, these Irkutsk guys are making such video. The problem is, if you dig through their Irkutsk Telegram channels, because, Russian regions usually have their own Telegram channels and all that, then you find out that these guys are made their video in a super hidden circumstances. They had toned down the lights and closed the windows, and everyone was wearing masks this time, because the last guys, 2 times, who made the previous videos about how their training was horrible and how their equipment was horrible, they were beaten up, and some of them were shot just because, hazing, I think that's the correct term, we call that dedovshin in Russian, is insane in Russian combat units, and it's also supported, so these Irkutsk guys were brutally beaten up and then sent to front, and now everyone who made the first 2 video messages is basically dead at this point. And they still decided to, do everything they could to do the 3rd message, but I don't know if you make these messages, do they think that at one point this is going to work? Or, I don't know, this is just more of a new motivation to keep them all dead. Another interesting thing has happened inside Russia. You see, as far as I know, literally every part of the world uses a very similar system of higher education, such as the one that we have here in Latvia, and I'm sure people in the United States have that too, and everyone in Europe has it, where, you get your bachelor's degree, and then you have, at least here, you can get your master's degree, of which I have too, and then you can get your PhD, and it's fun, And that was a kind of step away from the Soviet system. But because this whole system, and it's literally just a system of how to, unify the exams, and if I have my Latvian diplomas, I can show them to someone in the United States, and they'll probably recognize what's up there with my degrees and everything. Meanwhile, in Russia, because this system came together with with kind of these centralized exams being unified for the whole country, just like it's in every normal country, and how they basically clamp down on corruption in high schools and everything. Yeah, they just moved away from this. They will no longer have bachelors and masters and PhDs. They'll have their Soviet system, whereas you only had your, higher education diploma of university, and then you were a qualified specialist, no matter what you did there. And in some professions that works, since my grandpa was a civil engineer, and he studied for 5 years, which is about equal for a master's degree, and then he built roads and all this stuff, and it's okay for an engineer to have a master's degree. With doctors, that was a bit weird because they have their own weird systems after the study, which happened to my grandma. But all in all, that was a thing. Except right now, like I said, usually it went if you had 5 years of education or something, but this, level of education and how many years you spent at it really varied. But right now they've shifted around this and understood that, normally only the guys with master's degree, if you've changed these systems, will be given, counts as a full expert of your subject matter. But in Russia, as they're running out of educated people who would be normally qualified for any, positions requiring mental labors, they decided to, not even care about how the system worked in the Soviet era, and they just decided that everyone who just has a bachelor's degree will, get the same amount of, admissions and paperwork and everything done according to the new system, because, you have to transfer your previous educational system stuff, the one that they've had for 30 years and such, just like everyone else in the world. Now they're going to be snowflakes, and they're going to say officially that everyone who had bachelor's degrees also at the same level of expertise. But, I think they really don't even think that anyone from Russia is going to go abroad and do something there. Since if they only, adopted the fact that, let's have this full higher education that makes you a specialist only be equal to a master's degree, then that would be fine. Because then if you have that, then you can get admitted into foreign universities as if you had a master's degree. But right now, if they allow everyone with a bachelor's degree also to get the same, exchange their diploma for this one, then what's it going to do? No one's going to trust those diplomas because, I'm sorry, my dear people with bachelor's degree, but everyone with a master's degree understands that actually the huge difference of your knowledge and your ability if you have a master's degree and if you have a bachelor's degree. Of course, it's less in some scientific areas, but in some, it's actually quite huge. I'm pretty sure a programmer can do well with just a bachelor's degree, and the difference between bachelor's and master's is you can get an instant senior position or something like that. But for example, if you want to do, say, physics, especially, some complicated physics or something like that, or biology, I'm somewhat certain that, in the more theoretical fields, which are kind of the theoretical base sciences, I'm quite sure that there's quite a lot of things mattering there. And in any way, basically, if you watched or heard my interview, where I was interviewed by John Michael Gautier in his science podcast, this is just yet another way how Russia has been basically causing more brain drain and destroying their own science as much as they can. And I kind of get them. Who needs these pesky scientists? They're basically doing their thinking and all that whatnot. Can't have that now, can we? But besides that, we have some really interesting news. You see, yesterday, in various Z chats and everywhere, there were reports about explosions in the base of airplanes and the hangars of near Minsk, 20 kilometers of Minsk, in the airfield of Machulinshi. I'm sorry, Belarussian is quite different from Russian, so it's kind of hard. And although originally the Z channels reported that it was some sort of long-range Ukrainian attack with drones that hadn't done much damage, apparently lately, sadly, one of the at one point, they said nothing happened, but at one point it was found out that the airplane A-50 was destroyed there, which was standing there on the airfield. A-50 is a very rare airplane in the Russian Air Forces. It's a Soviet and Russian airplane of, long center and discover and command. I hope I used proper military terms. I'm translating this from Russian because no one really has translated these news in English yet. So I'll lots of work myself. This is basically a command and control radio location and command airplane. And this was built on the basis of the heavy transport plane Il-76 in the Taganrog Aviation Scientifically Technical Complex. And it was like, and this plane can find air targets, underwater targets, and ground targets at the same time, up until 60 of them, and basically orient either planes or airplanes or just airplanes or rockets or something at it. It was officially adopted in the Soviet Armed Forces in 1989, in the year of my birth. But there's not many of them, and they are really these high-tech things. I didn't understand their meaning, but as far as I know, they are also the part of the forces of the strategic department of the Russian army. They're also important for if Russia wants to launch their nukes. And they're super high tech. And there aren't many people who can repair them as well, because they are probably, these radar planes, you don't hear about them much, but I'm pretty sure someone in the comments will do that. And now everyone is worried about whether or not this means that this is a war against Belarus and all that whatnot. But no. Turns out that actually Ukrainians themselves are surprised about this. Because apparently this was done by Belarussian partisans, how they call themselves. And this was a part of some Plan Peramoga, which is Belarusian for victory. And apparently this was basically a diversion, a sabotage action by the local Belarusian partisans. And, it's kind of interesting since the Belarusian underground, who have started to hate Lukashenko a lot, since also a plan came to light that basically shows how Putin wants to integrate Belarus completely in Russia, until 2030, and how Lukashenko has basically betrayed his own country's sovereignty and accepted that plan. Yeah, they have a lot of reasons to do so. So, previously they had burned down electric control boxes for the trains, disrupting Russian logistics. Then they leaked documents about, the one episode where I mentioned all the nasty words Putin would like to be called in, and now they've actually sent, drones and managed to damage this airplane. Which is, pretty good news. But yeah, something positive happens. At the same time, in various interviews, people are talking about whether or not this war is going to last for very much. And Ukrainian side says that, Putin would like to keep it in a low simmer for many, many years, but Ukraine can't afford that, since even though, everyone in the West is helping them, their population is vastly, not as numerous as Russian one. And although their motivation is high, they want to be optimistic and finish this war during this year, since they can't really afford to do this for more than a year or so, because of just simple war weariness and all that. Well, what can we say? Of course, we in the eastern border wish them nothing but the very best of luck. And that's going to be it for today. Sorry for the shorter episode. Not exactly back to my regular mood at this point, but it is what it is. Happiness is mandatory. And as usual, comrades, if you want to support the show, please consider becoming our patron on patreon.com/theeasternborder, or you can go to our website, theeasternborder.lv, and make a one-time donation. We will really appreciate that. Now, on the whole accident stuff and the Twitter ban stuff, I don't want to comment on that now, since I've gotten some advice that tells me that I should quite much, keep this for a later date, so to speak. Just saying. So that's why I'm not focusing on this, and I would gladly ask you to, just let it go for a bit. We'll return to this when the time comes, and when the people tell me that it's quite okay to do that. Until then, once again, до свидания, товарищ. And remember, happiness is mandatory. You know, always nice.